Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning, featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are of course talking about the wonderful world of WWE and wrestling. Of course, a lot you can check out and a lot of news. The most obvious news, of course, is as regards what's going on in the wonderful world of the Royal Rumble and of Sami Zayn. That's going to be our top story today, regarding a lot of people pushing for Sami Zayn to be the winner of the next Royal Rumble. We have plenty more to discuss as well, rather than just that. We're also going to be talking about what's going on with Karrion Kross. We're going to be talking about Becky Lynch going off script. We're going to be talking about perceptions of Seth's faction. And that's before we even dive into what else is going on in the wonderful world of wrestling. We're going to be talking about a report from Body Slam, the situation with Tyler Bate. Yeah, you know what I'm going to say. We're going to do a little bit on what the odds are for AEW All in Texas. And finally touch on something the WrestleVotes have reported that tells me somebody's been watching Spoiler Warning. But first, we will of course start with our top story, and our top story is Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn has been beaten on Raw to within an inch of his life with a long-term intention and a long-term plan that risks being undermined by these people in and around Sami Zayn. So, we'll have to go into this in quite some depth. There's two real pieces I want to discuss here, both of which directly impact the chances of Sami Zayn going all the way, as it were. There is a strong push backstage as we speak between creative and management for Sami Zayn to win the Royal Rumble and compete for what is considered at this point the top championship at WrestleMania. Now in this instance, that will be the World Heavyweight Championship, because the big moment for the WWE Championship will come well before WrestleMania. This sets up a long-term feud, once again returning to Sami Zayn versus Gunther. Sami Zayn versus Gunther has put money on the table, has put meals on tables, has filled mouths up, and ain't nobody spitting it out. So, when it comes to this, the idea seems to be they are establishing a long-term weakness for Gunther that we've actually discussed at quite some length here on Spoiler Warning. Particularly, WrestleMania is a significant weak point for Gunther, but so too could be Sami Zayn. The most recent contract that Sami signed did have in it a clause stating that he would be pushed to top championship level. That is exactly what they are doing with the Seth Rollins faction. It was also intended to bring people like Sami Zayn with it, which is why he worked with Sami very early on in its time. The one thing that is undermining all of this is the popularity of teams and groups and individuals around Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn is in a difficult position right now because while fans have historically really cheered for this guy, he's up against CM Punk now. And there's a lot of love for CM Punk. He's up against a Seth Rollins, a Bron Breakker and a Bronson Reed who are doing really good, really fun work. He's up against a Karrion Kross that people know will be leaving if they don't get behind him. And because of all of this, there are some concerns that it's too little too late and that the time for Sami Zayn has passed. Now, Kross has been set against Zayn, and that means he is struggling to get cheers in his everyday moments, to the point that people are having to actually turn on Sami in the crowd slightly in order to offer any actual support. And we did hear some one more time chants encouraging Bron Breakker to hit another spear on Sami Zayn. So the love for Zayn does not quite outweigh the love for Karrion Kross and for Bron Breakker. In fact, WWE concerned that, as regards Bron Breakker, similarly to Jacob Fatu and everything we've seen there, Bron Breakker's natural charisma, particularly his promo on Raw, is hurting his overall storyline by making him just a little too relatable and a little too likable. In fact, there are concerns that Seth Rollins' entire faction is just a little bit too relatable to a modern audience to really be the heels here. A lot of people, particularly in modern day America and modern day UK, feel that they've been abandoned, they've been forgotten, that they've been wronged. For them, Seth Rollins is very much speaking their language. Right. Welcome everyone on TikTok. I see lots of names coming in. I did hit a flare. I don't entirely know what those are, but it apparently encourages a lot of people to tune in and to say hi. You have joined, Newman. You have. You are in the chat as we speak. Welcome. We are also live on YouTube, where we currently have 61 people watching, and 18 likes. If you're able to, please keep hitting those thumbs up. I'd like to get up to 30 as quickly as possible, and that will guarantee more people find this show. Newman, I don't know what you mean by a guest. You're in the chat, you can talk. If your intention is to come on camera, that's not going to happen. And if that's vitally important to you, this probably isn't the chat for you. So I'm going to say hello to everyone in the YouTube side as well. Liam says, Logan Paul is set to be involved in a program with Jelly Roll ahead of SummerSlam next month. This is via PWInsider. Thank you as always for sourcing. Logan Paul was definitely going to get the SummerSlam match of some sort, but Logan Paul versus Jelly Roll, not what I was expecting. Logan Paul very well trusted in the ring, but he does typically work with someone who can carry him if anything does go wrong. It'll be interesting to see that particular feud. Sledgehammer says, howdy everyone. Welcome Sledgehammer. Welcome Michael. Welcome Sean as well. Good to see everyone. Cecil says, good evening chat, and Tom Colohue. Good evening to you as well. Always a pleasure. Khalid says, hi Tom mate, happy to see you bud. Happy to see you too. Liam is saying, advertise for SmackDown tonight, Street Profits versus Wyatt Six, Ron Killings versus Alistair Black, and Jelly Roll appears. Also says NXT Heatwave is scheduled for Sunday, August 24th in South Carolina. AEW is holding their Forbidden Door pay-per-view earlier on in London, England on the same day. We will be discussing what's going on there a little later. I do want to say thank you, by the way, Liam, in particular, for the amount of news you just drop into the chat, meaning it's just nice little prompts and reminders to tell me to read that stuff out to make sure that everyone here knows exactly what's going on. So cheers for that. I appreciate you. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat, how are you all? I'm doing very well, Marcel. Welcome to the show. WrestleVotes. There'll be more on that one, Liam. There'll be more on that one. And Liam says, Solo Sikoa versus Jimmy Uso for the United States Championship is officially set for Saturday night main event this Saturday. Oh, that's some bad news, Sid. Sorry to hear that one for Wendy Richter, who, according to Wrestling Inc., reportedly lost her home in a recent fire. The wildfires are getting bad. If you don't believe in global warming, not the place for you. Daniel says, hey everyone, happy Friday, and a happy Friday to you too. Roy says, do you think there's too much wrestling this weekend? Yes, but I don't think it's really the fault of everyone else. WWE are making sure that there is way too much wrestling. Welcome everything Aston Villa. You had a good season last year. It wasn't as good as the season before, but you still had a good one. Michael says they're about 9 years too late on Sami. I find it difficult to argue with that. I genuinely do. Ray says Enzo Amore appears in a TNA Impact vignette on last night's TNA show. What more evidence do you need that the WWE is simply not involved in planning there? Sean says, according to Fightful, there have been discussions internally about turning Mariah May heel in NXT. I don't think she's been in WWE long enough to be a turn in any direction, to be honest. Confusing. King Azza says, Tom, do you see Roman returning at Saturday night main event? Personally, I do not. I do think, though, he'll be in the build to SummerSlam, as I've been discussing. Roy says, Jelly Roll is to make his in-ring debut at SummerSlam. Cecil and Marcel absolutely bombarding that chat rate. Thank you very kindly, guys. I very much appreciate it. Omega, welcome. Popping in on the TikTok side says, hey Tom, I've had such difficulty keeping up with wrestling lately. Gotta say hi whenever I see you. I appreciate that. Welcome to the show, mate. It's been a little while. How are you? Like, genuinely, are you okay? Because it has been a little while since your name's popped up. I notice these things. Are you okay? Just tell me you're okay. Just start there. There's a few people who like drift in and out. There's a few people who maybe haven't seen in a little while. And every now and then I'm sat there and I'm like, I wonder what happened to this person. I hope they're okay. I hope they're okay. Airwolf, don't be shouting at anyone here. That's not how that works. That is not how that works. If people want to type chat rate, they are doing me a favour. Okay? They're doing me a favour. As has been rightly pointed out by Eric, I do encourage it. It's a big help. Eric says, do you think Liv can return in a non-physical condition for SummerSlam? She can, she won't. Noob says, hello Mr. Colohue, how are you doing today? Are we going to expect some surprise and turns at Evolution 2 this weekend? Not really. I wouldn't expect too much. The surprises will be veterans. Triple H does not like to do his big moments on PLEs. Hector says, do you foresee Carrion being around through SummerSlam? I'm not sure what he could do. Maybe have him go for the Raw mid-card title if they actually believe in him, that is. Personally, I think his feud with Sami isn't over. And he maybe gets onto the SummerSlam card that way. I got you, Omega. SNH says, does my tribal chief return on Evolution 2? Well, it depends which one your tribal chief is, because, I mean, there's some good tribal chiefs there. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. There's some options. Bailey says, any word? If Athena will be featured at All In, she grew up in the area and is as close to a local favourite as any, but the women's card seems to be all about Mercedes money. It is, although I would point out it's also very much about Mercedes money and Tony Storm. Blue says, hey Tom, I've been feeling Sami as a Rumble winner since the location announcement. It's a fair shout, Blue. I get what you're thinking there. Roy says, Jake Paul is banned from WWE. Is it true? No, never has been. Noob says, Kenny Omega is predicting in a future WrestleMania we're getting Logan Paul versus Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast, to my knowledge, simply not interested. Rick, hello mate, good to see you. And yes, always, there will always be Cherry Coke. It's the one consistent in my entire life. Sean says, Saraya told Chris Van Vliet when her and WWE parted ways a couple of weeks later, Triple H called her and said he wanted her back, and said AEW called her the same and said, we'll hire your brother. That may well be the case. Triple H is a fan of Paige, as it were, and he was interested in bringing quite a few people back, but he no longer holds the actual, the purse strings. He's no longer able to splurge money the way he used to. Chris says, hi Tom, do you think the Six win the tag titles tonight? No. Once again, unfortunately, I see a lot of people getting in the way. Van says, according to Shotzi, she's iffy on joining AEW. Do you see AEW picking her up? Well, if she's iffy, the answer would probably be no, but I think she's saying that because she's already signed. Liam says, Gunter versus Penta for the World Heavyweight Championship is being advertised for next weekend's live event in Corpus Christi, Texas. Crazy how they don't put this live on a Raw or PPV. To be fair, they are currently keeping Penta firmly in the upper mid card, not straight to the very top. They will get a good match out of that, no doubt, but the intention is not to take him all the way. Not everyone can go all the way with Gunter. Just the special ones. Thomas, good to see you, mate. Says, hi, mate. Any news on Britt Baker? Is she still contracted to AEW? Yes, she is. Any reporting which is saying that she's aggravating for a move is complete garbage. Complete garbage. There's never been any issue with Tony Khan and Britt Baker. He's happy to have her and considers her one of the OGs, and as such, kind of beyond reproach, which is a rarity. Appreciate you, Juan. Appreciate you for that. Joey says, hey Tom, how's it going? Going well, thank you, Joey. Also says, why is Jelly Roll getting a storyline but Carmelo Hayes can't get TV time? Because unfortunately, with the way that celebrity works, Jelly Roll is much more valuable to WWE than Carmelo Hayes is. It's that simple. You may not like it, I may not like it, but it is how it is. Dan says, how are you feeling about the Six now they're finally being featured regularly? Where's my Coke? Oop, there it is. Where's my Coke? And then he leans off screen. I mean Coca-Cola, guys. I ain't that guy. Personally, I think they need to pivot to backstage segments over the VHS tapes. Well, they have recorded a lot of backstage segments and a lot of VHS tapes. They basically over-recorded everything, and they just pick and choose as the day depends on it. So they've got lots of different options and directions they can go in. It's a bigger operation than you'd realise. That says, big up Tom, if Kenny retains, who do you see him facing next? I think there's some really good options in the overall field. I don't watch enough AEW to really know who he's worked with in the past, but I'm confident it will continue to be relatively big names. I think there's a Kenny Ospreay feud that hasn't been fully explored yet. Joey, the only surprises I really expect are veterans, yes. Rin, welcome, says, guess Fury is at Starcade. That can be another Stardom talent Tony Khan can job. He hasn't treated the Joshi side very well, has he? Hector says, Brian Alvarez speculated there's a good chance Paige shows up at Evolution. What kind of reporting is that? It's a maybe upon a maybe, which is never good. To be fair, Hector, you have said Brian Alvarez speculated. While he does report and he needs to be careful what he says, he has at least clarified that it's an opinion. SNH, Roman Reigns does indeed have a match planned for SummerSlam. Thomas says, do you see any surprise returns or debuts happening at Evolution 2? Just the ones that I've already mentioned, which are the veterans. Ramson has followed. Thank you very kindly for following on TikTok. You do have that option on both sides. On TikTok, you can follow and get plenty of short-form content. On the YouTube side, you can subscribe and get plenty of long-form and live content. So, hopefully, there's enough for everyone. SNH says, Paige coming back at Evolution 2. Personally, I don't believe so. However, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I just haven't got any information on it. Joey says, is Shayna Baszler working as a producer now? Yes, she is. KJ, what I would say, it's a... you may believe it as regurgitated Twitter opinion. I personally think it's a relevant question. And Joey is entitled to ask it. Let's not forget, mate, the questions in this chat are the reasons the shows can keep going. So let's not forget that, okay? Sean says, do you see Isla Dawn going to AEW? I see Isla Dawn going wherever the hell she wants because everyone is interested. Ray says, Nick Jackson says AEW has the best roster in wrestling history. Of course he says that. He literally has a vested interest. Sean says, what do you think main event evolution? Io versus Rhea? Interesting one. Interesting one. I personally think it might be Tiffany versus Trish. Just for the opportunity to give Tiffany a main event before she ultimately loses the championship. But it will definitely be one of those actual top championships. As big a name as Becky is, I don't see the women's IC being at the top of the card. Rin says Britt Baker is getting paid to stay home. Good for her. Yeah, I mean, she is. Plenty of wrestlers do. King Arthur says, I can see WWE doing a double turn between Cena and Cody at SummerSlam because fans are turning on Cody very slowly. Cody does not want that to happen. Hector says, sources told Fightful Select New Japan Pro Wrestling star Hayuki Goto will play E Honda in the new Street Fighter movie. Guess that's why he might have lost the title back to Zack Sabre. So, for those not aware of New Japan, Hiroki Goto is one of those who's been there, he's done that, and he's never been trusted with the big bucks. Never. He's always been reliably in the mix. He's an AJ Styles type figure there. He's always been reliably in the mix, but the company's never been on his back. They even, AJ stole a couple of his moves. They are very close. What I would say as regards E Honda, yes. 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 I think that is absolutely perfect casting, and the more wrestlers they use, the better. Why are you hiring actual actors? I don't understand. You've got so many wrestlers. Use them. Liam says the women's tag team title match Evolution 2 is now complete. Roxanne and Raquel versus Charlotte and Alexa versus Solaruka and Zarya versus Asuka and Kairi. And also says, confirming what she said on Monday, Nikki Bella will be in the Battle Royal at Evolution 2. Essentially, she was originally intended to be in the tag team championship match alongside Brie if they were able to convince her, or a one-on-one with Liv Morgan if that didn't come into play. However, when it comes to the Battle Royal, she was available, they wanted to get her on the card, they threw her in at the deep end. Sid says, how are you coping with the hot weather? Pretty good, and I'll tell you for why. The fact that you guys haven't even mentioned it tells me I'm doing well here. There's a fan running behind me, just over there. Just over there. And the fact that nobody has mentioned it is great news for me. Great news. I'm very, very happy about that. I was honestly quite worried that the fan would disturb proceedings, particularly with the sensitivity of the microphone on TikTok. But so far, nobody has mentioned the fan. Can you? Can you hear the fan? Aaron says, I'm interested to see if any of the folks WWE released will debut during the Casino Gauntlet matches. Michael quite rightly says that WrestleMania is built off celebrity appearances. And Daz says that they continue in Penta's feud with the new faction. Yes, at the moment they will be doing so. Cool, thank you, Chris. Is it annoying? Is it annoying? Sean says, according to Betfair, Stephanie, Nikki, Bella, Bianca, Nia, Paige, Chelsea Green, AJ Lee are the top 7 favourites to win the Battle Royal Evolution. It's funny, because some of them are not even going to be in the match. Welcome, Daz. Thank you for the liking and the sharing. Appreciate you. And thank you, Chris, for that clarification. It's very nice, very succinct, very well put. Yeah, no arguments whatsoever. Noob says, I get the feeling that Triple H is going to sign Theory before Tony Khan does. KJ, just to be clear, it was made clear that it was speculation. There was no misquoting of journalist. None whatsoever. Are you okay? You seem to be spooling for a bit of a fight, mate. That's the vibe I'm getting here. Just want to suggest maybe take a moment here. Nobody misquoted the journalist. It was made very clear to me that it was speculation, which I appreciated. Joey says, do you expect Roman to return at Saturday Night Main Event? Personally, no, though I do think it does make a bit of sense long term to be heading in that direction. I just know, all I really know is that Roman will be back in time for SummerSlam, so I'd expect it to be very, very soon. Saturday Night Main Event makes sense. I just know that in general, Triple H doesn't like those sort of surprises. That said, with Roman, he has bent that rule a few times. Still warm. Wow, Chris. Tomorrow's going to be 29 degrees here in the UK, which is about 90 Fahrenheit for those in America. For us, that's a lot. We don't have air conditioning anywhere for any reason. In fact, all of our homes are built with the idea that they are just as warm as possible and retain as much heat as possible. It's not wonderful in days like this. Ray says, Adam Page and Swerve Strickland called it. Truth, I think Swerve Strickland will help Adam Page win the AEW World title. Bailey says, does Naomi cash in on Sunday? Personally, I think she waits until SummerSlam when we have Jade Cargill in the mix. Hector says, in an interview with Sam Roberts, Nikki Bella made it clear that Evolution 2 isn't a one-off. Does WWE really see Nikki Bella as a draw in 2025, or would she be around to help others get over? Yes and yes. They do consider her a draw. However, with her overall experience, they believe she can transfer a lot of that heat to others in play. Also, they're doing her a bit of a favour by giving her something to do during a bit of a difficult time in her life. So I give them credit for that. Dominic says, hi Tom, do you see Stephanie Vaquer winning a world title soon? Heard anything from Pat McAfee? Are you going to cover Saturday night's main event? Thank you. And thank you for all those questions. As regards the world title, no, I don't think soon is, as in the near future, is going to be the case for Stephanie Vaquer. I would suggest a mid-card championship at WrestleMania, as I've mentioned previously. I haven't heard anything from Pat McAfee. I've rarely ever talked to him. But I'm sure if he was, he would tell me all about American football, which I'm not that invested in. As regards Saturday Night Main Event, I will not be live for Saturday Night Main Event or Evolution. I will not be hosting a watch party this weekend. The next watch party will be both nights of SummerSlam. Both nights of SummerSlam. Thank you, Sid. Appreciate that update. Ray says, TNA said they want AJ Styles to make an opulence in TNA. I don't entirely know what that means. And Eric says, Tom, who do you see winning both Casino Gauntlet matches? Mine are, if she's ready, Jamie Hayter, and for the men, Takeska? Not sure if that's what you were meaning. But for the Casino Gauntlet matches, it's a difficult one. It's a good opportunity to elevate people, and there does tend to be a lot of surprises involved, so it's hard to really name people. Autumn says, hey Tom, do you think the Wyatts are about to start telling their story now? I think they have been for a while. And it's the compromise story that they've resulted in. Michael Winston says, PWInsider reported Damian Priest being banged up. Have you heard any future plans for him? Thank you. The future plan was to compete with Jacob Fatu for the United States Championship. That was also the plan for Drew McIntyre. Unfortunately, what's happened is that with both of them carrying knocks and injuries, they've instead pivoted to Solo Sikoa getting the championship much sooner than originally expected. So they've moved a lot faster than I think they were originally planning to turn Jacob Fatu face. But it does mean he still has options to wrestle people like McIntyre, and Solo versus Damian Priest is also an option. Joey says, do you think Punk tags with Roman at SummerSlam or has a singles match with Seth? I would imagine we're going to get some combination of Roman, Punk, and Jey Uso against Seth's faction. Gotcha, KJ. Thank you for the update. Sid says, would you like to see Nick Khan versus Tony Khan? It's one of the only situations in which Tony Khan might actually win a fight. Joey says, do you know what the plan is for Drew going into SummerSlam? Honestly, I don't. I think we might just get another big multi-man United States Championship match. Oh, I hope you enjoyed it, Roy. I really do. Dad says, what's happened to Wardlow? Not been seen since last year. Apparently they're just not that invested in the guy. Apparently they're just not. Bad Boy says, did you see the Wyatt Six latest message? I think their sixth member is someone else, not Alexa, because they recently released Alexa and Charlotte merch. As I've reported, there is no intention right now for Alexa to work with the Wyatt Six. There is a long-term intention. We are not there yet. Michael says, is there anything on what Jamie Hayter's injury is? No, that has simply not been shared whatsoever. That has not been shared. Eric says, hi Tom, what are your early predictions on War Games men's team? Do you think Solo's faction will battle Seth's? It does depend, because there is an intention for Jacob's faction to start kicking in, which I think would be interesting long term. Chris says, I believe Wardlow and Camille are in the American Gladiators that The Miz is hosting. That'd be pretty cool. He does say wardrobe accidentally, which I do find fucking hilarious, and makes me think of Beauty and the Beast. A wardrobe killed a guy. Noob says, I get the feeling that Asuka might turn heel on Kairi Sane and then later Io Sky. There is talk of an Asuka versus Io Sky program, so that would make sense to me. I suspect they might both turn heel though. Joey says, is WWE setting up an Aleister Black and Damian Priest feud for SummerSlam? I would suggest they're moving in that direction, yes. KJ says there could be a lot of returns at All In this weekend, especially with the 2 gauntlet matches, Copeland, Darby, Jay White if cleared, Wardlow, Britt and Shida. There are lots of good options, and I have no complaints about anything that you've listed there. Thank you, Liam. Says Roxanne Perez versus Sol Ruka versus Kairi Sane versus Alexa Bliss has been added to SmackDown tonight. The intention seems to be to make sure that Alexa Bliss and Roxanne Perez get a lot of time in the ring together. So it says Drew McIntyre advises wrestlers to change their names to Fatu if they want to get more opportunities in WWE. Of course he does. The man is bitter. In a good way. And Hector says, is Cody a heavy favourite to win the title from Cena? Do you see WWE holding off on the eventual Cody-Randy feud till 2026? Maybe with Randy winning the Chamber to set up a Mania match, it would be huge. I do think it will be a lot more long term, and I do think Cody Rhodes is going to spend quite a lot of this year not in action. Joey says, do you see Kairi getting a solo push since she's getting more vignettes? No. I think unfortunately they've just sort of changed tactic with the shorter shows, and they're doing a lot of vignettes for people who aren't appearing. They've actually recorded quite a lot of them to slot in as people are not booked. Hi Liam, good to see you, mate. Dad says, who do you have winning tomorrow, Randy or Drew? I'm never one to look past Drew McIntyre. So it says, my friend says RHO is much better than WWE. Ring Honor of is certainly a name to be aware of. Ring Honor of. Right, next up. Becky Lynch went off script during this week's Monday Night Raw, and in fact is said to be taking some lessons from Donald Trump's presentation style for her promos. You will note she's lately starting to ramble, wander off topic, and just make a mess of pretty much everything. She believes that for a big-time Bex, the Donald Trump system is a very good way of delivering a promo, and so far, it has been proven right, particularly allowing Lyra Valkyria to get over by simply saying, "What the hell are you on about?" The moment in which she went off script was the jab at Big E, when she essentially returned to the interview featuring the New Day to say that she was glad they got rid of Big E. New Day played along, naturally, and it is said to have gotten some big laughs backstage and from Big E himself. So, ain't no issue with it. It was an ad-lib, and she knew she'd be fine. Also, backstage perception of Seth's faction. And can I just say, these guys are earning rave reviews top to bottom, which is one of the reasons Raw is being built around them. Primarily because the faction has sort of landed on a very relatable system, as I mentioned earlier. It's bros supporting bros in its purest form, and they're just leaning into it. Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman doing background acting, while Bron Breakker lost his mind in front of them. Something they did largely on a whim, though it had already been discussed with Bron Breakker telling him not to turn around. These are things which really flesh out the individual, flesh out the characters, and show a difference in the Paul Heyman with Seth Rollins than he was when he was with Roman Reigns, and in fact when he was with CM Punk. I actually think, as regards Seth's faction, they're going to need much better opponents than Sami Zayn, than Jey Uso, and than Penta if they're going to stay heel. Because people are really, really starting to get behind Bron Breakker. Joey says, do you think someone from NXT will join Seth's faction next? He's not been looking at NXT when he's been picking his faction members. I still remember being told so many times that the faction was not going to grow, it was just him and Bron Breakker. Funny how the world works. Liam says Io's world title reign has been disappointing. Won it off Rhea, then faced Rhea and Bianca at Mania. Then WWE had nothing for her. Came back and is facing Rhea again. Disappointing booking. To be fair, Liam, I will say the intention originally was that she'd be moving towards a Liv Morgan feud around this point, and that she'd be moving towards that for SummerSlam. The match with Rhea Ripley is just a way of getting her on the card, knowing that her long-term feud has just vanished. Rocky says, I feel like the Y6 final member is someone else, because this time they didn't use she and her word in their teaser. To be fair, if you're ever looking at the Wyatt Six are one of those groups that will still refer to everything Bray Wyatt did. So often Sister Abigail is the answer to a question you haven't asked. Sid says, are you happy SmackDown has gone back to 2 hours? I am. Yeah, I could fly through it. It was quite nice. Bailey says, Paul Heyman's promo in Spanish was great. Came straight out of the blue. And Roy says, Vince Russo said SmackDown is not good and he could write a better show. He is lying to you. He's lying to you. Did you see the Vince Russo shows? Compare one of them to what we have now. It ain't better. It ain't good. It ain't happening. We're going to continue with news now. If you're watching on YouTube, there's 67 of you and only the 37 likes. Double check for me if you've hit that thumbs up. Body Slam's Viper, who also to my knowledge works with the legendary PW Nexus, has reported that WWE are planning to turn Bron Breakker on Seth Rollins as the end game for their faction. Somebody has been watching. Spoiler warning. Somebody has been watching. Spoiler warning. Chris says, have you seen any of the unseen Bray Wyatt stuff on 2K25? Not as of yet, no. I'm eager to check it out at some point. And Tony says, if that is possible, is it possible Tatum joins Wyatt because 29th of July is on Tuesday? There's a variety of options available to them, but I don't think there'll be a new member just yet. Edward says they're going to announce a main event match for Evolution prior to the show. I think the Triple Threat has the best story for it. Certainly it has been the best backed. I would lean towards one of the World Championships though. I do think this is a great time to give Tiffany Stratton an opportunity. A name you're not going to be expected to hear when you first join this show. An update on Tyler fucking Bate. Tyler Bate claims he's available but not being used by WWE. I can confirm that this is true. I'd also like to say, and share my personal opinion, fuck Tyler Bate. Fuck Tyler Bate. I'm honestly stunned that they convinced Mariah May to sign, knowing that he was still employed. But personally, I don't suspect he'll be employed for very long. So once again, fuck Tyler Bate. Anyway, Joey says, do you know which names have been pitched to join the Wyatt Six? Not many. The vast majority of names pitched have been pitched by the Wyatt Six and not by the WWE itself. The WWE itself are not particularly eager to see it grow. Bob John, I cannot legally comment on my hate towards Tyler Bate, though I would suggest that it's worth doing a bit of research and seeing what you find. You might well find something. Some odds to share now for the expected results for All in Texas. Now, I've outright copied this and pasted it straight from Cage Side Seats, so I just want to point out, I have taken this direct from Cage Side Seats. Credit to Craig. Who's Craig? Credit to Cage Side Seats for this particular phrasing. Odds makers at sites like BetOnline currently have Hangman Page with a close to 90% likelihood of winning the AEW World title at All in Texas. Elsewhere on the card, the Hurt Syndicate is being given a 75% likelihood of keeping the tag belts. Mercedes Money, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are slight favourites in their matches, and Adam Cole versus Kyle Fletcher is a straight toss-up. So if you're interested in toss-ups, there's your answer. Joey says, is Pete Dunne being kept off TV because of Tyler Bate? Yes and no. Primarily, when it comes to Pete Dunne, they have used him separately, but they are a tag team for a reason, so it's not being the most available because of it. Paul says, are you a fan of Leon Slater in TNA? I think he'll beat Moose, win the TNA X Division Championship. I'm a fan of Leon Slater in general. He does some pretty high-octane action. I don't watch much TNA, though. Kelly says, I can't wait to go to AEW Forbidden Door next month. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. Says, oops, slacking on my TV liking duty. I don't know how you do it. Genuinely don't. I don't know how TVs work. I'm a madman. A desperate fool at the end of his pitiful rope. Not much left now. Just as we approach 70 viewers. So a couple of things still to mention. Both from WrestleVotes. WrestleVotes report that WWE are intentionally oversaturating the PLE market to turn people off from AEW events. Somebody's been watching. Spoiler warning. They also finally confirmed that Roman Reigns would be back for SummerSlam after weeks of regurgitating the phrase, coming soon. Somebody has been watching. Spoiler warning. Michael says 20 days until Dakota Kai is free, but I'm not counting. Joey says, does Triple H have any plans to fix the Raw Tag Division, or has he completely forgot about it? Judgment Day being added to it is with the intention of making some changes, but the Motor City Machine Guns and Pretty Deadly had been slated to join. Them not having changed over when Triple H wanted them to has limited the possibilities and sort of left people with the belts who they weren't really planning to have long, prolonged time with. So the New Day suddenly had no actual opponents. It was very confusing. Drive-by says, hi Tom, do you think Roman will appear at Saturday night's main event? Any word on his Tribal Chief 1 character change? No, I've not been reporting on a Tribal Chief 1. I have not really heard anything about it. As regards Saturday night main event, I think it makes sense for him to appear. I don't know if he necessarily will. Bailey says, where does Dakota Kai go? Wherever the hell she wants. And Hector says, knowing that Liv being out has affected not only Evolution 2 and the women's title picture is a testament to WWE continuing to believe in her and also the work she's put in since her call. I was thrilled to be able to report that there was a significant push coming for Liv Morgan, and I was in no way thrilled to report that she was injured and had subsequently lost it. It does a suck. That is all the news that I have for you guys so far today. We've been live for 40 minutes and we will be back live again come Monday. We'll be live all the way through until SummerSlam. We'll have 2 nights of big show, not the big show, but a big show. And I do think those will be an incredible time to be a part of the Colohunity. Until then, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has joined us. I've been Tom Colohue, you have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.